who becomes enlightened. It's important to be humble, she assures me. But who is humble? Or who is there to even want humility? People often shy away from attention because they are timid, unsure of their readiness for confrontation. Is that humility? Or is it more likely that they secretly desire more attention for being or merely seeming self-effacing? Again, not humility. The more we learn what humility is, says Madame Guyon, the less we discover of it in ourselves. Now she says, there's no center, no one at the center. You are at the center. There's no ego there. Awareness is chaperoning this mind-body vehicle. It's okay to value what is passing away and coming into being. Love yourself. You won't be here much longer. Your dramas, stories, narratives are epic. Without them, there'd be nothing. You alone reflect the light of awareness. This isn't real, she likes to insist. Who can say real or unreal? This is just the mind playing with concepts. If there's nothing to compare with this, how can we characterize this as real or unreal? It just is, and one makes convenient use of words to suit a momentary purpose without craving continuity. Is it already something? Well, then why look back going forward? I create spontaneously from the raw material which is behind me, which is already in my rear view. Everything is in front of me, just arriving, not already anything. Again, she makes clear, there's no continuity. It's all language, isn't it? We try to put it into words and get paradoxes. There's no continuity could just as easily be expressed. There's no interruption. Just the brain making connections using whatever cultural assumptions are already in place. We have ideas of what this is supposed to look like. Told, look, here is a holy man. We decide if he fits the mold. But enlightenment could manifest in wildly diverse ways according to the uniqueness of the human individual. Some people are naturally passive, prone to conformity, and will just be assimilated into the blissful Borg. If you manifest crazy wisdom in a way which is not sterile, muted, self-negating, then they will dismiss you as a charlatan. Buddha sat under a tree negating. Krishna flirted, danced, and played the flute, even as he encouraged Arjuna to affirm the war, for that was Arjuna's way. Jesus blessed his executioners and went like a lamb to the slaughter. Nietzsche realized an invincible ego, hurled lightning bolts into history, and roused the human spirit from its nihilistic slumber, not without making waves. When his fuse burnt down and the bomb went off, he appeared to his culture as a largely vegetative lunatic. Who today speaks of him as an enlightened one? He does not fit most people's idea of what that means, nor should he. But there are rare types, unashamed of their rarity, offensive to many in proclaiming it, who will recognize a brother magician in him, a pathbreaker of the highest order, and who will birth odd sayings, perhaps like, only atheists believe in God. U.G. Krishnamurti, by enlightenment, became convinced that holiness is a charade, calling even Ramana Maharshi a con man. He found his own way out. Milarepa's teacher was merciless, or intuitively knew which student required such severity. It matters who becomes enlightened, and what cultural assumptions are present. We focus a lot on what appear to be universals, but the variations are all that's real. It's different for everyone. When it happens, you could think, wait, really? That's all it is? There's just no notion of reality as something other than what is appearing. After the direct experience, you begin to put the pieces together, but it's not like you downloaded anything new from some perfect source. You still just have whatever you had with you, the cultural and biological inheritance present in this mind-body vehicle. Only now there is a sense that you are present in God or self, and there's nowhere else to go but where one is presently going. Nothing to do but what one is presently doing. So there's more space in which to reconstruct your models of being. Whatever you place attention on will play a part in your dream. You can play any game you want. The point is, there's only God doing everything, so you have nothing to do. If you are being foolish according to your standard or the standards of others, God is you being foolish. Reality cannot change. It is not under threat, and thou art that. Every particular thing passes away sooner or later. When the smoke clears, you find that you remain where you are, in the driver's seat, untouched. You never left. Reality has never not been reality. Where can it go? What are you afraid might happen to it? These are dead ends, like all thoughts. Distinctions are just smoke. There's only the one fire of reality. With nothing to do, you might as well be still and surrender to the eldritch rhythms drumming in the tensions of your flesh, all the fierce, the wild activity which you imagine your real self escaping from. This is the imminent transfiguration of being, the decaying skin of an immortal serpent on whose crown you ride. As for what happened to me, I literally dissociated from everything and became awareness, or the blank screen on which this all plays out. My body continued to stand and walk around the kitchen and prepared tea and sat down and sipped from it, etc. And the whole time I was not identified with it. The thoughts arose in this mind-body mechanism, but I did not attach to them. The thoughts were trying to make sense of what was happening, trying to identify with this as an experience. But the thoughts were all evaporating before they could convince me of their reality or tempt me to identify with their chatter. This went on for a while, and at some point the thoughts arising had me pegged as the higher self or guardian and angel. Then I was looking at myself with almost pity or compassion or indulgence, like a pet that was trusted to my care. I understood that this is all there is. Whatever is here is being itself, running its course. The appearance of a choice. I can remain detached, or I can identify with the life of this Stephen character and live out the rest of his life, because it's going to play out in any case. And because God, energy, whatever, can only manifest through whatever is here. And since then I've known that there's nothing else besides what there is. You see, it's impossible to sensibly describe these sorts of things, let alone explain them, let alone prove them. Perhaps the core insight. What we see, or how we conceptualize and articulate what appears, depends on our cultural and biological inheritance. Even after the experience of illumination or enlightenment, God, as in being itself, can only use what is present already in your own mind. It's like Mozart got dropped into a cave and all he has to play on are rocks and sticks. He's still Mozart, but if you ask to hear his Requiem, you may be less than impressed. Sartre wrote something about needing to break the bones in our brains before we can think new thoughts. This was also something that followed upon my experience. It seemed my mind was full of all these connections, like this ice crystal castle, all these associations between ideas. And it completely shattered when this all happened. It shattered, yes, but at the same time, it melted and pooled, and everything was suddenly in the most immediate contact with everything else. In the next instant, it resurrected by itself. The same connections are present, only now I'm aware of them in a more detached, non-literal way. I use what is present in my head and am not confined by it. Be careful. You don't want to build a cage out of presuppositions in your own mind, climb into it, and find yourself beholden. Always take what others have told you with a grain of salt, no matter how venerable their names. Buddhism wasn't always Buddhism. Stoicism wasn't always Stoicism. Rather, real people contributed to the traditions in real time, each from his or her own unique point of view, and each drawing in part on what others had told them. And thus the tradition developed into what we call it today, just as it will continue to evolve and acquire new dimensions. All concepts in which an entire process is semiotically concentrated elude definition, says Nietzsche. Only that which has no history is definable. So it is too with you. A process in time cannot be defined. It is written only that you may contribute a verse. Nobody can tell you what you are here to tell the world.